Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I'm here with a book review. The book that I'm going to be reviewing is Finally Seen by Kelly Yang. I did a reading of the Mock Newbery list. I read 7 of the books on the Mock Newbery's 2024 list, which you could find on Goodreads, and I'll leave a link down below to where you can find it. They have it for other years too, but this was the last of the books that I read for this particular personal reading challenge. I will be talking more about it in a future video as far as the list is concerned. But here I want to talk about my thoughts as far as Finally Seen is concerned. Finally Seen follows our central character, Lena Gayo. She was 5 years old when her parents, her mom and her dad, came to the U.S. with her sister Millie, who's 3 years younger than she is. Lena's family is from China, and Lena stayed back with her grandparents, Leo and Leo Yi. Leo Yi has since passed, but now Lena is 10 years old and has the opportunity to move to the U.S. to be with her parents and her sister. She takes that opportunity, and it is a great opportunity for its face value, but it does present challenges. First off, her Leo ends up in an assisted living based off of the agreement of her mother and her aunt, but she still nevertheless feels a sense of guilt. There's also the fact that she speaks very broken English, whereas her sister speaks perfect English. She also knows her way around much better, and that includes a much stronger bond with her parents, which, being together for that period of time, would make you much closer than only interacting through letters and postcards. The other thing is that they go to this school that they're fortunate enough to get into, so she has to maneuver her way in there as well with a community of people that also speak perfect English and know their way within the native country. The other thing is that it sounded like they were in a much better financial situation, but in actuality they are struggling to pay rent. Her father works for a farmer named Pete. You can also see him on the cover. He and his father are talking. But Pete is very hard-nosed, overbearing. He does not like when people speak a language other than English within his presence. He's also very insecure, but he is also very knowledgeable as far as farming techniques are concerned, and also keeps in mind what is environmentally conscious. Thus, Lena's father highly respects him and admires him for the fact that he believes he means well. Also, working at the farm is a woman who has a daughter named Carla, who ends up befriending Lena. Lena also, going into school, despite the challenges, sees a great deal of support from figures like Mrs. Carter, who's her teacher, Mrs. Ortiz, who is her ELL teacher, helping her strengthen her English, and Mrs. Hollins, who is the school librarian that takes Lena under her wing as an assistant librarian. Lena goes there during her lunch period and is introduced to some great graphic novels. The one that really sticks out to her is Flea Shop, which also has to do with an Asian family looking to get by. She introduces her to New Kid by Jerry Craft, which I really admire the incorporation of that, because I read New Kid earlier this year and I thought that that book was brilliant. I just finished reading Class Act and I would like to read Field Trip, but she does see a lot of comparisons as far as philosophical construction is concerned. And then she also, through her work, comes across Fumble, which she passes on to a friend that she meets in class named Finn. Finn is the one that she sits next to. He helps her out because it seems like he understands her Chinese, but it turns out his Chinese is limited to the menu of Chinese takeout restaurants. But he himself has a lot of challenges because he does his best to fit in among those that display a bit of not necessarily toxic masculinity, but annoying masculinity. In the way that he feels that he needs to keep up with them just because it makes him feel more, he needs to be more masculine, when in actuality you can have masculine interests, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have them just for that sense. And he's also trying to be an ideal son to his father, who is a diehard Rams fan. We do develop a greater sense of the way he is as well. And then you have antagonizing figures such as Jessica, who gives Lena a hard time in class. But we learn that it's Jessica's mother that really shapes the way that Jessica is as a character. And the role that adults have in their children and in the world in general. But we also get that sense that Lena is very artistic. She decides that she wants to put together a graphic novel of her own experiences to send to her Leo Leo. And she also does her best to fit in with her mother's desires, because her mother's looking to pay rent. She's putting together a bath bomb company where she's making bath bombs with hopes of selling them. Lena's sister Millie is able to develop a greater understanding of the way that things work, so Lena has a bit of difficulty finding a place within it, but things go as they may, and we are able to follow Lena through her ability to fit in and develop a voice in her new society. The one question that I had in mind is something that does end up getting answered as the book progresses, and that is when Lena asks her mother, why is it that they took Millie and not her, instead of either vice versa, taking them both, or not taking either of them? That was a question that I was hoping would get answered, and it did. And I think that that is a contribution to what makes this book really strong and meaningful. I also really admired the characters in this piece. I think that there was a great deal of dimension within them, and they had desires and hardships of their own. It wasn't like they were there to support Lena's character. They themselves had backgrounds of their own, between Finn and his father, Carla and her mother, and how they are doing their best to make do since mother's husband had passed, and they've been looking to get their own footing. Jessica and her relations with her mom. It shows that everybody has, and you also have Carla and her homeschooling. Uh, but the whole idea that everybody in the piece has that they exist as their own beings as well, and not just to support Lena. It very much reminds me of the way that Craig Bartlett conducted business on Hey Arnold, and how well fleshed out his characters were. Of course, this is one book, and it's meant to serve its own single standing purpose, but I think that it really, the development of the characters and the fact that all of them are perfectly human allowed this book to flourish so well. I do have some criticisms about this piece, but they're not really detrimental. The first is the fact that there were a lot of Simpsons references, which on one hand, I was a Simpsons fan, so I could really get and enjoy them. But with a book that is targeted for people that are 8 to 12 years old, I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons until I was 12. But I think later on my parents realized that it was more so that their concerns were not that it was inappropriate, but it was just silly. But I would still feel that, especially as the show progressed, there are references in there that I don't think younger audiences, or specifically those that would be reading this book, would get from The Simpsons. I mean, they have a right to watch them. I think that they should. I think that they should be allowed to watch the show. But I think that it was a bit of a. I could get what she was trying to accomplish, but I think that it was a bit. I don't necessarily know if it would speak to its target audience of readers. Maybe 12 to 14, but not 8 to 12, because 12 to 14 is when I was really an enthusiast for the show. The other thing was what felt like a subjective approach to homeschooling. Homeschooling has its pros and cons, but it feels like the fact that Carla was being homeschooled meant that she was being left. It was primarily concentrating on the aspects where it was outcasting and depriving. But I think that there should be different accounts that can be taken to homeschool, and whether or not it may work for some and not for others, and that there are other approaches that can be applied. And then the other concern that I had to do with the clarifications as to whether or not, as to if and when Lena was speaking Chinese or if she was speaking English. Because there would be a moment where she would be speaking perfect English, but then there were other instances, primarily when she was out in the general public, where it sounded more broken. And I would imagine that when she was speaking with her family, it seemed clear because it was Chinese. But out in the general public, she would be speaking English and it would be broken. But it's something that really, I wish that it was specified a little bit more. What I also liked about this book is that it champions the freedom to be able to express yourself through literature. And I think that being able to embrace and champion the art of the written word is an important thing. And it also brings to light the literary merit that comes with graphic texts. Graphic texts are not necessarily my favorite medium, but I've begun to enjoy what it is that I've read. And the graphic texts, especially graphic memoirs that I have read, have been quite amazing and clever, between Mouse, Persepolis, First Time for Everything. New Kid is a work of fiction, but it's a brilliant novel, and Newbery caliber, too. But I think that overall this was an amazing piece that kept my attention, and I felt immersed and engaged. I gave this book 4.5 stars out of 5, and I would highly encourage people to check this book out. Thank you for tuning into this video. I hope you check out some more videos from our channel, and for now, keep reading.